"Daddy said it's nothing," the girl whispered, "but now it really hurts." Her voice cracked like thin ice over water. Beneath the towering mahogany shelves, Ava Cole crouched on the floor, trembling. Her small fingers dug into the fabric of her pink dress as if she were trying to hold herself together. Dust motes floated in the shafts of late afternoon light spilling through the tall windows, and the room smelled faintly of leather, polish, and cold air. Ava's curls clung damply to her temples. Her knees were drawn to her chest, her shoulders hunched, her back pressed against the shelf like she was trying to disappear into it. Her bare feet she'd kicked off her shoes somewhere were red with cold from the marble floor. Each tiny breath came out in shaky gasps, as if even breathing had become a chore. Maya Williams froze mid-step, the edge of her cleaning rag still pressed against the carved wooden shelf. The sun outside cast long, lazy shadows across the Persian rug. Somewhere in the distance, the grandfather clock struck 4, each chime like a slow heartbeat. She lowered the rag slowly, her eyes never leaving the child. She had noticed things over the past 7 months, little things that sat heavy on her chest. Julia Cole, elegant and distracted, brushing past Ava on her way out to yet another gala or art exhibit, murmuring "Mommy's busy," as the girl tugged at her sleeve. Richard Cole, tall and immaculately dressed, barking at Ava for spilling juice or dropping a spoon. The way the little girl flinched before she even finished her father's name. It was a pattern Maya knew too well, a mother's absence and a father's voice like a whip disguised as discipline. She crouched carefully, voice soft. "Ava?" she said gently. "Sweetheart, what hurts?" Ava lifted her head, and Maya's heart clenched. Her cheeks were streaked with dried tears. "My back." Before we continue, if you find this story interesting, make sure to subscribe. It really encourages us to keep bringing you more, the girl said, and then paused. "But Daddy said it was just because I was being clumsy." "Can I see?" Maya asked softly, extending a hand. Ava immediately shook her head, pulling her dress down tighter and pressing her small arms over her sides, as though she could hide the pain with her own body. "No," she whispered quickly, eyes darting toward the door. "You can't look." "Why not, honey?" Ava's voice trembled, barely audible. "If he knows I told you, if he knows you saw, he'll make it worse." Maya's throat tightened. The little girl's words were like echoes of her own childhood. She remembered kneeling on a kitchen floor decades ago, hiding bruises from her stepfather, praying nobody would notice. It was the same fear now, etched into Ava's tiny face. "Ava," she said softly, shifting closer, "you're safe with me. He doesn't have to know. I won't tell him. But I need to see if you're okay." "Dawn." The child's eyes filled with tears. She pressed her lips together, trembling, and for a long moment refused to move. Then, as if something inside her broke, she whispered, "Promise he won't know." "I promise," Maya said. Very slowly, Ava turned and lifted the back of her dress just enough to reveal the edge of the bruise. Even that glimpse made Maya's blood run cold. Dark purple and angry, it spread across the girl's lower back like a cruel painting. Not a fall, not a bump. It was the kind of bruise Maya had seen before in emergency rooms, back when she was still a nursing student, before life pulled her away from that path. She swallowed. "Did you fall?" Ava shook her head. "Daddy asked me to carry the box. From the basement. He said I should be stronger." "What kind of box?" "The wooden one, with bottles. He said it would help me grow up faster." Her little voice faltered. It was really heavy. Maya didn't speak for a moment. The quiet stretched between them, heavy and electric. Her eyes swept the room, instinctively checking for security cameras. House staff. No one. Just silence. And that child in front of her. She had been taught, growing up in Montgomery, Alabama, that speaking up was dangerous, especially when the people in power wore tailored suits and lived behind gates. But she'd also learned that silence could hurt more than anything, and she had promised herself after years of watching her own mother look away from her stepfather's shouts that she would never stand by if she saw it happen again. "Ava, I'm going to help you," she said, reaching out, gently brushing a curl from the girl's damp forehead. "He won't know until it's too late for him to hurt you again." Before she could say more, the heavy double doors creaked open. Richard Cole entered the room like a cold wind. Immaculately dressed in a slate gray suit, no tie, collar open just enough to suggest wealth without effort. He was tall, with salt and pepper hair, and eyes that had forgotten how to soften. Even without raising his voice, he carried the same sharpness that Maya had heard at the breakfast table when Ava dropped a fork, an edge that could cut through a room. "What's going on?" he asked, voice even, but the undertone unmistakable. Maya stood quickly, positioning herself slightly in front of Ava. "Mr. Cole, I found Ava crying. She seems to be hurt." "She fell," Richard said flatly. "Kids do that. I don't think this is just a fall." He arched an eyebrow. "And you're the expert now?" "I studied nursing, and I've seen bruises like this before." His eyes narrowed, stepping closer. "Let me be clear, Miss Williams. You are here to clean, not to diagnose. Don't overstep." Maya's hands clenched at her sides. "She's 5, sir. She's not your recruit." He gave a tight, humorless smile. "She's also not your responsibility." Ava whimpered behind her, shrinking smaller. "That did it." Maya turned, crouched again, and gently cupped the girl's face. "Do you want me to help you, Ava?" The child didn't speak. She only nodded, a slow, desperate movement, eyes glancing at her stepfather's polished shoes. Maya stood up. Her fingers trembled as she pulled her phone from her back pocket. "What do you think you're doing?" Richard snapped. "I'm calling the police." For a second, time stopped. The room didn't breathe. Then Richard laughed cold, incredulous. "You think a maid calling 911 is going to mean anything here? This house has been in Forbes, Miss Williams. I have judges over for dinner." "I don't care," Maya said, pressing the first number. "Think carefully. You like this job, don't you? Good pay. Clean roof. You really want to throw that away over a misunderstanding?" "This isn't a misunderstanding. It's a child in pain." The call connected. A woman's voice came through the speaker. 911. "What's your emergency?" Maya's voice was steady. "My name is Maya Williams. I'm at 1326 Meadow Hill Drive, Ridgefield. I believe a 5-year-old child has been abused. She has visible injuries. The child is in immediate need of help." The dispatcher began asking questions. Maya answered each one, calm but firm. Richard stood there, silent now, the mask cracking at the edges. Something in his stance told her he hadn't expected defiance, certainly not from a woman like her. When Maya ended the call, she turned to Ava, who had tucked herself against her leg. "It's going to be okay," she whispered. Ava looked up, eyes wide, trusting. "Promise?" Maya nodded. "Promise." Outside, in the distance, the faint wail of sirens began to rise. The sirens grew louder, closer, curling through the quiet Connecticut neighborhood like a warning bell. Maya stood still, her phone still gripped in her hand, her heart pounding louder than the sound outside. Ava clung to the hem of her shirt, fingers tight, small body trembling. Behind them, Richard Cole stood in a measured calm that only made Maya more uneasy. His jaw flexed once. He didn't move. "They're on their way," Maya said, more to herself than to him. Richard gave a short, almost amused exhale. "So they are." He stepped forward slowly, each footfall a calculated move. Maya instinctively took a half step back, pulling Ava with her. "You don't know what you've just done," he said. His voice was soft, nearly a whisper. "You're a maid, Miss Williams. You work here. That's all. You don't get to rewrite the rules." Maya kept her gaze steady. "The rules don't protect children from bruises." For a moment, his eyes flashed something primal and angry, but it vanished as quickly as it came. He turned and walked to the bar cart near the window, pouring himself a glass of whiskey like it was just another afternoon. Outside, red and blue lights flickered against the tall hedges. The sirens stopped. Tires crunched on gravel. Ava flinched and buried her face in Maya's leg. Maya leaned down and whispered, "It's okay, sweet girl. You're safe now." 2 uniformed officers knocked loudly. Maya opened the door before Richard could move. "Evening, ma'am," said the first officer, a stocky man in his late 40s with silver at his temples. His name tag read Officer Bennett. "We received a report of possible child abuse?" Maya stepped aside. Yes, it's the little girl here. Her name is Ava. She's 5. I found bruises on her lower back. She was crying in the library. She told me her stepfather made her carry something too heavy. Ugh. Bennett glanced at Ava, then at Richard, who stood with his drink in hand and a tight smile on his face. I see, the officer said. Mr. Cole? I have no idea what Miss Williams thinks she's doing, Richard said smoothly. This is clearly a misunderstanding. The girl tripped in the garden yesterday. Got a scrape, maybe a bruise. She's dramatic. But this? This is ridiculous. Maya opened her mouth, but Officer Bennett raised a hand. Sir, with all due respect, we'll need to speak to the child privately. Ava looked panicked and pressed into Maya. It's okay, Maya said gently. They're nice. They just want to make sure you're all right. Will he hear what I say? Ava asked in a whisper. No, sweetheart. They'll talk to you in another room. Officer Bennett and his partner, a younger officer named Collins, led Ava toward the sunroom. Maya watched them disappear down the hall, her chest tightening. This was the moment everything hinged on. Richard sipped his drink, calm as ever. You're really playing hero today, aren't you? I'm just doing what should have been done a long time ago, Maya replied. He chuckled. You've been here, what, 7 months? You think you know us? You think you've seen anything real? I've seen enough. You've seen what I let you see, he said coldly. And trust me, judges and lawyers will see what I let them see. Before Maya could respond, Officer Bennett returned, his face unreadable. He looked between Maya and Richard. We've documented the injuries. The child described the object she was forced to carry and the location it was stored in. Richard's jaw tensed. We're going to have to take her to the hospital to be examined, and we'll need to see the basement she described. I don't consent to a search, Richard said sharply. Bennett nodded once. That's fine. We'll obtain a warrant. Wait, Richard began, but the younger officer, Collins, had already stepped back in, holding Ava's coat and shoes. She's ready, Collins said quietly. Ava walked beside him, her eyes searching for Maya. When she spotted her, she ran into Maya's arms. I don't want to go without you, she whispered. Maya knelt, brushing hair from her face. You have to be brave now, okay? If you're still here and enjoying the story, we'd love your support. Take a second to hit subscribe. It really means a lot. I'll be right behind you. I promise. What do you think of Maya? If you believe she deserves it, give her a like. And don't forget to comment where you're watching this video from because, who knows, someone right near you might be watching it too. Ava nodded slowly, then let Officer Collins guide her out the door. Richard placed his drink on the counter a little too hard. You've ruined everything. No, Maya said, rising. I might have saved something. Later that night, after Ava was taken to the local hospital and Maya had given her official statement, she sat in her car in the estate driveway, hands still trembling. Her phone buzzed. Text from Officer Bennett. We're taking this seriously. You did the right thing. She stared at the message, her mind spinning with what had just unfolded. What would come next? Would Richard follow through on his threats? Would Julia believe her? Would the courts? And underneath it all was one image she couldn't shake. Ava's small hand grabbing hers like it was the only solid thing left in the world. Maya leaned back against the seat and whispered to herself, no more silence. Not again. The night had settled heavy over Ridgefield, a kind of darkness that seemed thicker around the Cole estate. The tall hedges, manicured and perfect by day, now looked like sentries keeping secrets. Maya sat in her car for a few moments longer, staring at the house. Its windows glowed faintly, but the warmth was an illusion. Inside, the halls were colder than winter air. She glanced down at her hands, still faintly trembling. She'd given her statement, watched Ava ride off with the officers to the hospital, promised she'd follow soon. Now she was back in this house, called to sign paperwork and retrieve some of Ava's belongings. It felt wrong being here without her. The silence of the mansion pressed against her eardrums. Through the glass front door she could see Richard pacing the entry hall, phone clamped to his ear. His face was pale but tight with anger, his free hand slicing through the air as he spoke. Even from here, she could tell his tone wasn't contrite. It was strategizing. Maya stepped out of the car and adjusted her coat. The December air cut into her skin. She thought of Ava's small body on the marble floor, whispering about boxes and bottles, about growing up faster. No child should carry that weight. When she entered, Richard ended his call but didn't pocket the phone. He stood still, watching her with an expression she couldn't name. "You're back," he said. His voice was low, smooth again, but sharp at the edges. "I wondered if you'd come." I told Ava I'd get her things," Maya said. "Her coat, her stuffed rabbit. She asked for it." His jaw flexed once. "Touch nothing else. I'm not here for anything else." He tilted his head, eyes narrowing. "You're braver than you look." Maya ignored him and moved past, heading for the stairs. But she stopped at the top step, remembering Ava's words. The basement. The wooden boxes. Heavy. She turned back. "Where's the basement?" she asked. "Off limits." He was quick. "Why?" she asked. "If everything's as innocent as you say, why not show the officers now? Why wait for a warrant?" His eyes glinted. "Because this is my house, and I decide who enters which room." "You think you're a detective now?" "I think a 5-year-old told the truth," Maya said softly. He took a step toward her. "You should leave before you regret this." Maya stayed where she was. Her heart was hammering, but she kept her voice calm. "I'm not afraid of you, Mr. Cole." "Numb." They stared at each other for a long moment. Then he smiled. But it wasn't friendly. "You'll learn." Maya turned and walked upstairs to Ava's room. The walls were pale blue, dotted with glow-in-the-dark stars. She picked up the small stuffed rabbit from the bed, its fur worn where little fingers had clutched it. Next to it lay a pink headband, bent out of shape. Maya added it to the bag, along with Ava's coat. She could feel Richard's presence in the hall before she heard his footsteps. "Do you think you're some kind of savior?" he asked from the doorway. "No," Maya said without turning. "I think I'm the only adult who listened. You don't understand how the world works." His voice sharpened. "Money talks. People like you don't." She zipped the bag shut. "We'll see." He snorted. "You think they'll believe a maid? You think Julia will thank you? She'll take her daughter, sure. But she'll blame you for tearing her life apart. You'll lose this job and every reference. And that little girl you care about, she'll end up in foster care, alone." Maya turned then, slowly, meeting his eyes. "Better alone than bruised in your house." His smile faltered. From outside came the sound of a car pulling up the drive. Headlights splashed across the window. Maya glanced out and recognized Officer Bennett's cruiser. Relief pricked at her chest. He was back. Richard moved to the window. "Persistent," he muttered. Maya stepped into the hall as Bennett entered the foyer. The officer's face was grim. "Evening again," Bennett said. "We need to inspect the basement." The hospital confirmed non-accidental injuries. The DA authorized an immediate search. Richard's face hardened. "I told you to wait for a warrant." "We have one," Bennett replied, holding up a folded paper. Maya clutched the bag tighter, her pulse racing. This was it. The truth Ava had been too afraid to show was about to be uncovered. Richard straightened his jacket. "Fine. Follow me." "No." Bennett nodded toward Maya. "Miss Williams, you can stay here, or come along as a witness." "I'm coming," Maya said quietly. They followed Richard down a back hallway to a heavy wooden door. He unlocked it with a key from his pocket. The air grew cooler as they descended the steps. The smell of earth and wine filled the space. At the bottom was a large room lined with racks of bottles, crates stacked against the far wall. Maya's breath caught. These were the boxes Ava had described. They looked heavier than anything a grown man would want to lift, let alone a 5-year-old. Bennett scanned the room, jaw tight. He knelt near one of the crates and brushed the dust aside. Small footprints dotted the floor. He looked up at Maya. "Child size," he said quietly. Maya's stomach turned. She was telling the truth. Richard crossed his arms. "It's a basement. She plays down here. Kids get curious. This proves nothing." Bennett stood. "It proves enough for tonight." The officer turned to Maya. "You've been more than helpful. We'll be taking photographs and samples. You should get home. It's late." Maya hesitated, then nodded. She looked around once more, the crates, the dim light, the smell of old wood and spilled wine. This was where Ava's pain had started. As she climbed the stairs, bag in hand, she whispered under her breath, "No more silence. Not again." Outside, snow had begun to fall, soft flakes landing on the driveway. The house loomed behind her, but she felt something shift. The truth was rising like the snow around its foundation, and Richard Cole could no longer stop it. Snow clung to Maya's coat as she stepped out of the Cole estate. The December night had gone from crisp to bitter, and the soft flakes swirling down caught the red and blue strobe of the police lights like sparks. She tightened her grip on Ava's small duffel and stuffed rabbit. The house behind her looked almost beautiful in the dark, its windows glowing faintly like a storybook mansion, but Maya now saw it for what it was, a cage lined in velvet. She was halfway down the driveway toward her car when another vehicle turned in, headlights slicing through the falling snow. It slowed, crunched over the gravel, and came to a stop near the cruiser. The door opened, and a tall woman stepped out, her coat belted tight over a travel-wrinkled dress. A scarf slid from her shoulders as the wind caught it. Julia Cole. Her face was pale from the cold, but there was another kind of pallor there too, shock. Her phone was still in her hand, screen lit with Maya's frantic text. She looked around at the police, the cruiser, the falling snow, and then at Maya. "What happened?" she asked, voice thin. Maya swallowed. "You should go to the hospital, Mrs. Cole. Ava's there now. She's safe." Julia blinked as though trying to process the words. "Safe? From what?" Before Maya could answer, Officer Bennett approached, removing his gloves. "Mrs. Cole, I'm Officer Bennett with Ridgefield Police. We've been called to investigate suspected child endangerment. Your daughter has been transported to Ridgefield General for evaluation." Julia's eyes widened. "Endangerment? That's ridiculous. She turned to Maya. "She just fell, right?" Richard said she fell. Maya's chest tightened. She had watched Julia brush past Ava too many times. A distracted hand on her shoulder, but eyes elsewhere. She'd seen the way the little girl flinched when Richard barked at her, and how Julia never stopped it. But now, standing here in the snow, she saw something different flicker across Julia's face, fear. Not the distant fear of embarrassment, but the sharp one of a woman realizing she might have left her child in a stranger's hands. "She didn't fall," Maya said gently. "She's been hurt." "Do her?" Julia shook her head once. Hard. Like she could shake the thought away. "No. Richard wouldn't." Her voice cracked. "He's strict." "Yes. But..." Officer Bennett's voice was firm but not unkind. "Mrs. Cole, your husband's been cooperative so far, but we've documented injuries consistent with heavy lifting far beyond what's appropriate for a 5-year-old. We've secured a warrant to inspect your basement." Julia pressed her fingers to her lips. "My God." "Maza." Inside the house, Richard appeared at the doorway, his figure framed by warm light. He didn't come out. He just stood there, a dark silhouette in the glow, arms crossed. Even from this distance, Maya could sense the steel in his posture, the calculation in his stillness. "Julia," he called. His voice carried easily. "Come inside. You're cold. We can talk." Julia turned slowly toward him. The falling snow settled on her hair, catching in the dark strands. "What did you do?" she asked, her voice low but carrying. Richard's smile was faint, almost patient. "Our daughter had a little tumble. Miss Williams here panicked. She called the police. We'll sort it out. Come inside." "She's at the hospital," Julia said. "Why is she at the hospital if it was just a tumble?" Richard didn't answer at once. He looked at Maya, his eyes narrowing, then back at his wife. "Because she's dramatic. And because some people don't know their place." "And..." Julia took a step toward the house, then stopped. She looked at Maya. "Is she really hurt?" "Yes," Maya said. Her voice trembled but stayed clear. "I wouldn't have called otherwise." Julia's breath fogged in the cold air. Her hand shook around her phone. She looked back at the mansion, then at the officers, then at Maya again. "I trusted him," she whispered. "I left her with him." Maya stepped closer, her own coat dusted white now. "You can still protect her," she said softly. "She needs you." For a moment, Julia didn't move. Then she straightened, the pale look in her eyes hardening. She turned fully toward the door where Richard waited. "I'm going to the hospital," she said. Richard's smile flickered. "Julia, don't," she said sharply. "Don't speak." She turned back to Officer Bennett. "Can someone take me there?" "Yes, ma'am," Bennett said, gesturing to his cruiser. Julia hesitated, then stepped toward Maya. "Did she?" She swallowed. "Did Ava say anything?" "She was scared," Maya said. "She didn't want me to look at her bruises because she thought he'd find out. She asked me not to leave her." Julia's face crumpled. She reached out suddenly, gripping Maya's hand hard. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not leaving her." Maya squeezed back gently. "Go. She's waiting for you." Julia nodded once and walked toward the cruiser, her scarf trailing behind her. As she got in, she cast one last look at the house at the man standing in the doorway, his shadow stretching long across the marble floor. Maya watched her go, then looked back at Richard. He hadn't moved, but his jaw worked as if he were chewing on something bitter. He gave her a thin smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You've made a mess," he said. "No," Maya replied quietly. "I've just started cleaning it up." Richard's smile faded. He closed the door without another word. Snow continued to fall, muffling the world. Maya stood in the drive for a long moment, the stuffed rabbit under her arm, feeling the weight of what had just shifted. For the first time since she'd walked into this house months ago, someone other than her had seen the truth, and that truth was beginning to move like an avalanche. The Cole mansion was strangely silent after Julia left with the police. Snow still fell, muffling the crunch of tires as the cruiser rolled down the long drive. Maya stood in the entryway, clutching Ava's stuffed rabbit, her fingers numb from cold and from everything that had just happened. The air inside smelled faintly of oak and expensive wax polish, but to Maya it felt more like a tomb. Upstairs, a clock ticked steadily, each sound echoing through the empty hall like a countdown. Richard was still there, standing in the library doorway. He had swapped his whiskey for a phone, his thumb swiping furiously across the screen. Every so often he muttered a name, someone from his network, someone who owed him, judges, lawyers, country club friends. But no one seemed to be answering. "You think you've won," he said finally, his voice calm again. "You think a few bruises and some tears will undo me?" Maya shifted the rabbit under her arm, keeping her voice even. "It's not about undoing you. It's about protecting a child." He laughed once, sharp and humorless. "Protecting a child? You don't know the first thing about it. That girl, she's soft. Julia coddles her. Someone has to teach her the world isn't kind. And, season note, protecting a child. She's 5, Maya said. The world will teach her soon enough. It doesn't need your help breaking her." He looked up sharply, his eyes catching the light. "Careful," he said. "You're only still standing in this house because I let you." Maya's heart pounded, but she kept her chin high. "No, I'm still standing in this house because I won't leave her alone." He took a step closer. "You're making a mistake, Miss Williams. When the dust settles, she'll be in foster care, and you'll be back scrubbing toilets somewhere else. All because you thought you were a hero." "I don't care what happens to me," Maya replied. "I care what happens to her." Richard's face twisted, something dark flashing across it. For a second he almost looked like a man cornered, but then it was gone, replaced by the polished mask he wore for boardrooms and charity galas. He slipped his phone into his pocket. "Get out," he said simply. Maya held his gaze. "Not until the officers are finished. They're not coming back tonight," he said. "They've got their little warrant. They've got their photographs. They'll file their reports. Meanwhile, you're trespassing." "I work here." "You did," he corrected softly. "Not anymore." He moved toward her, but before he could take another step, the sound of a phone cut through the hall, a sharp, high ring from Maya's apron pocket. She fumbled it out, glancing at the screen. It was Officer Bennett. "Maya, you still at the house?" His voice came through, steady but urgent. "Yes," she said quickly. "He just told me to get out." "Stay put," Bennett said. We've got more questions and we're coming back for a few items. Don't let him intimidate you. Maya's eyes flicked to Richard. He stood very still, watching her. Okay, she said softly. I'll stay. Good, Bennett said. Julia's with Ava now. The doctors are documenting everything. We'll keep you updated. The line clicked off. Maya slid the phone back into her pocket, pulse still hammering. She could feel Richard's stare burning into her. Police, he said. You think they're your friends? They'll use you, Miss Williams. You're a maid. You're disposable. Maya took a slow breath. Maybe, but not tonight. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The snow hissed softly against the windows. The house's heating system hummed, filling the silence. Maya could smell his cologne, sharp and expensive, a scent that clung to the hall like a ghost. He broke the silence first. You know what your problem is? He asked. You think loyalty is noble, but loyalty without power is just self-destruction. Maya tilted her head. And you think power without loyalty makes you untouchable. But it doesn't. He stared at her, eyes dark. Then, very slowly, he smiled. But it was a smile without warmth. We'll see. Maya didn't respond. She turned and walked up the stairs, the rabbit still under her arm. Every creak of the old wood felt like a signal. Don't stop. Don't look back. In Ava's room, she set the rabbit on the bed, smoothing its worn fur. The glow in the dark stars on the ceiling stared down, pale and cold. She could almost hear Ava's small voice. Promise? I keep my promises, Maya whispered to the empty room. Downstairs, a door slammed. Richard was still moving, still making calls, still believing he could bend this night back to his will. But something in the air felt different now. The ringing phone, the sirens, the sudden presence of Julia, these were cracks in the fortress. Maya could feel it. She sat on the edge of Ava's bed,